Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Hey, best wishes for the new year. And I want to thank you for your viewership. It's deeply appreciated. How about this? Let's do an update on COVID-19 and vaccinations. But first, it wouldn't be Pennsylvania Newsmakers if we didn't talk about elections. As they say, let's get to it.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, joining me to talk about elections 2021, 2022 is John Cole. He's the managing editor of Pennsylvania PoliticsPA. I'll get that quite right, John, but it's still the same, right? Pennsylvania politics, which you cover in great detail.
That's correct. And like you said, elections in 2021, 2022, it really never ends, does it?
No, and it seems like we're still in the last election in 2020, doesn't it?
It really does. It's one huge cycle, and we're going to have a ton to talk about.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about elections statewide. There's court elections. We have 3 appellate courts, Commonwealth, Superior, and believe it or not, the Supreme Court of the state, 7 members on that court. And these elections and they're elected right now statewide for 10-year terms. The fact of the matter is, John, that these statewide judicial elections there's not a lot of fanfare, not a lot of advertising because of the expense involved and limitations on what the judicial candidates can say. Where does this all go?
That's true, Terry. Although it doesn't get the same publicity that, let's say, of course, a presidential race gets, gubernatorial races, Senate races, it doesn't get the same attention. But please believe that the statewide races for, the judges for the state Supreme Court, the state Commonwealth Court, and the state Superior Court are quite important. In 2021, we will see there's an opening on the state Supreme Court, which, of course, is going to get a lot of attention. And then there's openings on some of the other lower courts. But it will certainly be a topic of conversation for 2021. In the primary, we'll see how that starts to play out.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I'm certainly not underestimating the significance of these judicial elections. The problem is that the voters don't know much about them. And right now, as you and I speak, there's action in the state legislature to amend the Pennsylvania Constitution to do what? To change the way in which we elect these appeals court jurists. And why don't you say something about that so our viewers are well aware of what could be facing them on May 18th when we have the primary elections?
Correct. So right now, for the past few months, there's been a Republican-led effort to have a constitutional amendment for the Pennsylvania state constitution about how we elect our judges. Right now, they are statewide positions, so let's not forget, for the state Supreme Court, there are 7 seats. The Commonwealth Court, there are 9 seats. And the Superior Court, there are 15 seats. Those are statewide positions in which they're elected. There's an amendment right now, or there's legislation that Republicans have largely backed. And as long as it is passed by some time in February, it will appear on the primary ballot in May, in which we would actually, instead of electing them statewide, there would be judicial districts. Now, supporters of this legislation believe that this would bring more regions of the state into the process. I think opponents of the bill believe that's a way of gerrymandering of the court. Again, and then there's both sides where, again, supporters will once again point to saying they believe that the state Supreme Court is already politicized enough. Of course, Republicans point to the decision to redraw the congressional boundaries, in which was drawn under Republicans a decade ago. The U.S. Supreme Court, of course, deemed that they were unconstitutional after the boundaries were redrawn. Democrats picked up seats. I think that kind of started getting the wheels moving for Republicans to lead this effort. And again, of course, opponents of this people who don't support this legislation, they believe that this is just a Republican power grab. They believe that this is an effort to combat the state Supreme Court, which is Democrat majority.
Yeah, I mean, and this will be an important amendment to the Constitution that will change the composition of the court. The Supreme Court is now 5 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and if this amendment were to pass, then we would have 7 elections, 7 district elections, equal population, but it certainly would reduce the influence of the Democrats if this amendment were to pass.
Correct. And I think a thing they point to as well is that if you look at where in the state these judges are from, I believe you have 4 from the Pittsburgh region near Allegheny County, and then 1 from the Philadelphia area.
Yeah.
So, exactly. So that's what they point to as proof in their mind that there's too much power in just these, these Democratic majority parts of the state. So that's their proof, at least in their mind.
Right.
But then again, Democrats can point to, they said, look, these are statewide elections. If you bring it back to, judicial boundaries, I think WHYY reported that there's only 2 other states that have anything like this so far. So this would be truly something that would change the makeup of the courts in the state.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, there's something important that I want to talk about. If all the eyes were on the state of Pennsylvania during the presidential election, and I think that's certainly true, in 2022, and I know that's, not coming up imminently, but the fact of the matter is that we will have an election for governor and election for the United States Senate that literally will be followed by folks all over the country, and we'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
All right, my guest is John Cole. He's the managing editor of PoliticsPA. And John, I'll put this briefly. All eyes are on Pennsylvania for 2022, and it starts not in 2022, but in January of 2021. Take it.
That's right. If you thought, there was a ton of, the Pennsylvania was in the spotlight for the 2020 presidential election, that's certainly true. And it was expected. We were the Keystone State. But many people who perhaps don't follow politics would think 2022, the presidential race next time is 2024. 2022 will be a crucial year, and Pennsylvania very well may get the most attention in the whole country again. So there will be an open Senate race. Senator Pat Toomey, who is in his second term, he announced in 2020 that he would not seek re-election in 2022. So that will lead to an open race there. So there will be a crowded field among Democrats and Republicans alike for that seat. And of course, that could have control. The winner of that seat could determine who has the majority in the Senate going on from 2022. And then, of course, in state government as well, there will be a gubernatorial race. Tom Wolf, who is in his second term, is term limited. And he will not, obviously, he cannot run for another term. And there is a plethora of candidates that have been rumored that have interest, again, whether they're statewide officials, people in Congress, state legislature. I'm telling you, there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork that are going to seek both offices. And this is not just one party, I'm saying. We're going to see Democrats and Republicans alike from all corners of the state that are most likely going to make a run for this, because it's truly going to be an important year in Pennsylvania. Yeah,
and coming up in the new year, January, February, March, and April, I think these candidates will emerge. Probably the sooner the better they can begin to formally raise money and do the other things. But it's going to be a wild affair. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to make a judgment about it except to say the voters are going to have their hands full, as we are, keeping track of all the candidates and their activities, correct?
Absolutely. And even though no one will have a better idea when candidates formally announce, Terry, but it's pretty evident to those who follow politics. We've already seen certain officials make a few more media appearances than they previously have, certainly signaling that they're making themselves more available to the media. I think it's signaling that they have their sights set on other offices.
Yeah, they're going to be making calls to shows like Pennsylvania Newsmakers, right, around, and different programs around this state. All right, we have about a minute left before we go. The legislature, after the midterm, after the presidential election cycle, is now the Pennsylvania legislature more conservative, and the Republicans won 2 of the 3 important state row officers.
Correct. So like you said, even though Joe Biden carried Pennsylvania, won the White House, there was not coattails for Biden. There was certainly a good day for Republicans in the state. They flipped the Auditor General's seat, or that was an open seat. DePasquale was done. Republican Stacey Garrity won that race, and then for treasurer, then for Auditor General, Tim DeFore defeated Democrat Nina Ahmad for that seat. Again, certainly it's important that Republicans are able to flip both. And then in the state house, they even picked up 2 seats, or
right.
They flipped 3 seats. So it's certainly notable that Democrats thought going into the election, if Biden wins, there'll be large coattails. They'll be able to flip seats in the state legislature. They lost 2 statewide offices, and they lost seats in the state house.
Mm-hmm. John, I want to thank you for providing this in important information about the elections coming up, and we'll follow that very carefully. All right, let's do an update on COVID-19 and vaccinations, a very, very important set of topics, and we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Well, joining me now is Dr. DellaVecchia. He is the president, if you will, of the Pennsylvania Medical Society's Board of Trustees. We're going to talk, do a little talk. Hey, well, let's add the flu. We don't hear much about it. Then we want to talk about COVID-19 and obviously vaccinations. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Terry. Happy to be here.
I'll tell you, typically now in a different year, we would be talking about the flu. Were you vaccinated? Why, if not, why not? Boy, you don't hear much at all about the flu, given obviously the significance of COVID-19.
Well, we were sort of surpassed by COVID-19, which is more of a larger and immediate need. But you hit the nail right on the head. The flu is still going to be out there, and it's not just the flu. It is, in fact, all other diseases. Other diseases have not stopped whatsoever based on COVID-19. So we still want everybody to get their flu vaccine to protect them against the flu. On a normal year, we have approximately 30,000 to 60,000 deaths per year from the flu. And we're very efficient at lowering those numbers as the number of people get inoculated against it. And once again, we want to really promote getting your flu vaccine, which is readily available at all your drugstores, your doctor's office, and so forth. And so the sooner you get that, the better protected you will be against the flu. Similarly, other things that have to be done, other diseases that you have to monitor, should also still be monitored. That's very important. Your blood pressure still has to be treated. Your diabetes still has to be monitored and treated. If you're due for your mammograms or whatever, within the proper way that you could schedule them safely, your health care should continue. So please get your flu vaccine and continue with your health care.
Yeah, that's very, very important that you brought that up. I got the vaccine, and I typically do, and hopefully I won't get the flu. But at any rate, let's go to another subject. And last week, we got the numbers. We're getting the numbers every day about the folks who are getting COVID-19, the increase in the deaths, and it doesn't look like it's abating anytime soon.
Well, what it is there's certain waves in what we call resurgences. And we knew that the fall was going to be such an issue. And we're in new territory, as you know, Terry. We haven't been in anything like this even 100 years ago when we had an epidemic and a pandemic. So we're kind of learning as we go. But we knew the numbers were going to increase. One of the numbers that are increasing is, thank God, we're doing a lot more testing, which gives us a lot more diagnoses and a lot more patients. Some of the fortunate things about it is we're treating it a little better, and there's not the severity, I think, that there was before. Yes, the number that are presenting to the hospitals have increased. We're monitoring very closely the available intensive care beds to make sure that we have that little bit of cushion that we need for our patients who are sick otherwise. So if you have a heart attack, if you have a stroke, if you have a pulmonary embolus, we still can take care of you.
Yeah.
So I think, the hospitals and our state, which I'm very proud of, have been addressing this and taking care of it to a large degree. And we knew the numbers were going to increase, but we have a couple new weapons, as you know, in the armamentarium to protect against this. And as things roll out, we hope to get control.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I do want to get into the whole subject of, vaccinations, the rollout, the significance of that. There's some problems that exist with the rollout, and now they're talking that it may be not just months, but perhaps even a full year or so until everybody gets fully vaccinated. We'll take up that subject after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
Well, let's talk about vaccinations with Dr. DellaVecchia. He is the president of the Pennsylvania Medical Society's Board of Trustees, and welcome again. Look, I keep reading conflicting, I won't say evidence, but reports about the rollout. In some places it looks like it's going well, in other places not so well. But this vaccination is extremely important, not just to your health and my health, but to the health of all Americans.
That is correct. And we fortunately had our second vaccination approved, Moderna, last week. And, we're really pushing it along quite well. On December 11th, I believe, we had our first approval with the Pfizer vaccine. And we're looking at vaccinating probably over 300 million people.
Wow.
And this is an unprecedented effort. And we're rolling out the vaccines, we believe, somewhere between 20 and 40 million per month at the present time. So you can see just the logistics of this, Terry. It is one monumental thing to do. And we expect that to get even better as AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Novia, the other companies, get their approval. But it is our intention to vaccinate as many people as we can for protection, not only of the individual, but the public health.
Yeah.
This is a public health thing, and it's something that is totally unprecedented. We're in new territory. It's not going to go completely smoothly, as we can imagine, but I think given the unbelievable task and what we have accomplished, it'll be a lot of learn as you go, but we've done a lot and we're going to do a lot more.
Yeah, that you make some very important points. In terms of the order in which folks get it, it seems that they've really made the right decision. It should go to medical, healthcare workers. It should go to people in nursing homes, many of whom are just not elderly but have pre-existing conditions. And then, it drops down to elderly folks and then, the rest of our society. And it seems to me that order makes a lot of sense. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. Essentially what they're going, it's like going to the casino. You want to put your best bet down. And that is with our frontline workers who are, God bless them, at jeopardy and have been in jeopardy over the past year, risk their lives and their family lives. And also the high-risk people, the people who are already in the hospital. And then we'll drop back and we'll hit the high-risk people who are basically the elderly, have comorbid problems that are very serious, high blood pressure, diabetes, and so forth. And as the vaccine becomes more available, we'll go down the hierarchy, and we'll cover everybody eventually. Of course, some people want it now and immediate, but we can't always do that. You know, there is a certain logistics with this vaccine that is very serious. We know the newer vaccines have to be cryopreserved.
Right.
There are very few facilities that could do that. And one of the things we definitely don't want to do with this precious commodity is to waste it.
Yeah.
So we want it available, and we want it stored properly and delivered properly. We don't want to have to say, oh, you know, there have been 1,000 vials that weren't up to temperature and we have to throw them out. So we will get around. I'm sure there's a lot of people who want theirs now and are a little impatient, as we all are. It's been a very, very tough year. We gave up a lot of lives. We put a lot of things on the back burner, and we want to get moving. But the basic thing now is to be patient. We're all in it together, and we'll get it done.
Yeah. Now, has have health officials, I'm talking about those connected to state government, are they reaching out to folks like you in the medical community for advice about how to handle this? I mean, you are on the front line. You are actually seeing the patients who, you know, have COVID-19 and have to deal with an assortment of other healthcare issues.
I think, especially in the state of Pennsylvania, they've been very good at this issue. You know, we compare notes within the state, within other states, and nationally. And once again, it's learn as you go. So what we're trying to do is, what is the best populations? What exactly geographies are insurgent, or resurgent, I should say.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want to cover as best as we can. We don't have a magic wand. We can't say, poof, everybody's going to be vaccinated and cured by tomorrow. It's definitely not going to work that way. But in the meantime, learn as you go, do what you can with what you have. And fortunately, the resources will be better and better as more of the vaccines get approved by the FDA.
Yeah, you make a great point there. Look, it seems to me that we need to work together on this. All of us in society, we need, you know, to have uniform practices that really work, and that we follow through with them, something that isn't always the case. Doc, I want to thank you for coming on, and please keep us up to date. All right, we'll see you next week.
My honor.
Yep, my pleasure. See you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.